Before I start, I want you to do something simple. Just think, don't say it out loud. What was the last price you looked at today? Maybe it was food. Maybe it was something online. Maybe it was a stock ticker you glanced at on your phone. Just hold that number on your head for a second. Now, let me take you somewhere else. I grew up in Indonesia, and if you grew up in Indonesia, there's one story you hear over and over again. At the dinner table, from your parents, from your grandparents, and it's not a mythology, it's not a fairy tale, it's the catastrophes that happened in 1998. In 1998, Indonesia went through one of the worst financial collapses in modern history. The rupiah, our currency, lost almost 80% of its value. Not over a year, not in 6 months, but in weeks. In weeks. And when that happened, the prices of everything, rice, cooking oil, fuel, the basics that hold everyday life, became unrecognizable. Not slightly higher, not trending upwards, but unrecognizable. It was like waking up in a country you didn't go to sleep in. And families who had been saving up for years, carefully, responsibly, woke up and realized those savings could barely buy what they had bought the month before. Businesses shut down. People lost jobs. And entire middle-class lives were reset to zero. And here's what always got to me, even as a kid hearing these stories. This wasn't caused by an earthquake. This wasn't a war. This wasn't even something you could see, touch, or run from. This was caused by a number. I remember sitting at the dinner table, listening to my family talk about this, and feeling this weird mix of fascination and fear. Because I was already the kind of kid who loved numbers. I was drawn into the stock market, to charts, to the way price moved. And I kept asking myself this one question that I honestly still think about to this day. How could a number do that? How could something so abstract, digits on a screen, a price tag, have the power to reshape an entire country? That question is the reason I'm standing here today. There's a line from Oscar Wilde. He says that people know the price of everything, but the value of nothing. And yeah, that's a pretty great line. But I actually think the problem today is much worse than that. Let me show you what I mean. Quick show of hands. How many of you have compared prices before buying something? Like check 2 apps, or check the menu and steer toward the cheaper option? Right, basically all of us. We do it every day without even thinking. Now, keep your hand down this time, but I still want you to think about this honestly. How many of you have ever stopped and asked, why is this the price it is? Not, is this cheap or expensive? That's a reaction. I want something deeper. Why is this price what it is? What's behind it, and what is it actually telling me? Because here's the thing that Wilde missed. We don't just fail to understand the value of things. Most of the time, we don't even know what a price is doing when it talks to us. We hear the number, we skip the message. And I think that gap between knowing a price and understanding a price is one of the most overlooked gaps in how we navigate the world. Let me explain what I mean. Every day, we are surrounded by prices. They're on our phones, our receipts, our rent agreements, our groceries, our news feeds. They're constant, and our relationship with them is almost entirely automatic. We see a price, and we filter them out instantly. Cheap, expensive, worth it, not worth it, done, move on. But we almost never stop and ask the harder question. What is this price actually saying? Because a price is not just a number. A price is a signal. It tells you about scarcity, what's running out, or what someone wants you to think is running out. It tells you about power, who gets to set the terms, and who has to follow them. And it tells you about fear, about confidence, and about trust. And that's the core of what I want to talk to you about today. We learn math in school, we learn history, we learn science. But nobody teaches us how to read prices, how to interpret the one thing that quietly influences every decision we make. What to buy, where to live, what career to pursue, whether something is for us or not. I call this price literacy. And I think the absence of this is shaping our lives in a way that we don't even realize. Let me give you a personal example. I remember being 14, strolling through an online store and looking at this leather jacket that I really liked. The price was, I don't know, more than I'd ever spent on a piece of clothing. But my immediate thought wasn't, this is too much for this material, or the markup on that is insane. My thought was, this was not for me. Not, I can't afford it right now. Not, I'll save up for it. This was not for me. It was like the price had drawn a line, and I was in the wrong side of it. And I think a lot of us has had this moment where a price doesn't just tell us the cost of something, but it tells us who you are, or at least who you think you are. That's not economics. That's a price shaping your own sense of reality. And when you can't read prices, when you simply absorb them and react, you don't just become uninformed. You become vulnerable. Vulnerable to bad decisions, to manipulation, to systems you can't really see because you were never really taught how to look. Now, let me bring this back to something more specific. Rice. For most people, rice is just a food. It's a side dish. It's something you have with your entree. But in Indonesia, rice is not just a food. It's one of the most politically charged numbers in the entire country. Every president knows this. Every government knows this. If rice prices rise too sharply, you're in trouble. And the funny thing is not economic trouble, but political trouble. Because rice isn't a luxury item. It's what people eat every single day, at every meal, and in nearly every single household. So when rice prices are stable, the message people receive, whether they're thinking about it consciously or not, is we're okay. The system is holding and we're being taken care of. But when rice prices spike, the message changes instantly. In early 2024, this actually happened. Right before the presidential election, rice prices in Indonesia started to climb. And here's what's interesting. People didn't respond the way an economics textbook says they should. They didn't sit down and say, supply chains have been disrupted, or the weather is unusual right now, or import policies have shifted. They felt something. They felt something was wrong with the government, with the leadership, with the people who were supposed to keep them safe. A number printed on a sack of rice in a market in Jakarta became a political verdict, not because people analyzed it, but because they felt it. That's the power of price when you don't realize it's talking to you. It bypasses your logic and it goes straight to your gut. And that's true whether you're in a market in Jakarta or you're in any supermarket in the world. Now, let me take you somewhere else very different, the United States. Let's talk about minimum wage. The federal minimum wage in the United States is $7.25 an hour since 2009. Let that land for a second. That's over 15 years, the same number. Now, I want you to do something. I want you to think about one whole hour of your life, 60 minutes. Think about what you could do in an hour, the energy you spend, the focus, and the time that you never get back. And then think about the fact that there are millions of people whose labor, one full hour of their lives, is valued at a mere $7.25 for over 15 years. That's not just an economic figure. It's a statement. It says, this is the minimum we believe a human hour is worth. And when that number doesn't change, when it stays frozen, while rent goes up, groceries goes up, healthcare goes up, everything goes up, it sends another message, a powerful one, but a quiet one. We're not updating what we think your time is worth. Now compare that to a country like Australia, where the minimum wage is $23 an hour. The gap between $7.25 and $23 is not just a difference in policy. That's a difference in belief, in what labor means, about what dignity looks like, and what a society owes to the people who keep it running. And here's where it all connects to what I'm talking about. Most people associate minimum wage as a political debate. Left versus right. Pro-business versus pro-worker. But if you read it as a price, if you read it as a message, it tells you something much deeper. It tells you what a country believes about the value of human time. And every country are sending out very different messages. I find that fascinating and a little unsettling, because the thing about these numbers is they're only visible if you know how to read them. And if you don't, you just see a number and you move on. Now, let me zoom all the way out to the global scale. When the United States and Europe imposed sanctions after Russia's invasion of Ukraine, they weren't just blocking trade routes or freezing assets. They were doing something much more fundamental. They were using prices as a weapon. They were saying through the language of economics, actions have consequences, and certain actions will cost you access to the global financial system. And when the ruble dropped, when its exchange rate plummeted, that wasn't just a line on a financial chart. It was a message being received by almost every Russian who went grocery shopping and found that the prices had changed overnight. Sound familiar? Every day during that period, the ruble's price became something like a scoreboard, but it wasn't tracking financial markets. It was tracking global opinions. It was tracking consequences, and it was tracking power. And the people who understood that, who could read the price signal for what it was, they had a completely different understanding of what was happening to the people who just saw a number going down. So here's where it all comes together. Rice prices in Indonesia, they tell you about trust, about whether a society feels safe. Minimum wage in the US, it tells you about dignity, about what a society owes to their people. Currency prices during a geopolitical crisis, it tells you about power, who gets to control the rules, and who pays the cost. These aren't just economic indicators. They're messages, and they're being sent all around us all the time. Prices don't just reflect the world. They shape how we understand it. They tell us who matters, who has leverage, who gets left behind, and who never even realized the conversation was happening. That's what price literacy gives you. It doesn't just give you the ability to become a better shopper, though maybe that too. It gives you the ability to see the world more clearly, to ask better questions, to not just accept the number in front of you as the final word. But I need to be honest with you about something. Prices can lie. They can be manipulated. They can hide inequality behind clean, round numbers. They can make exploitation look like a bargain. They can delay the truth, sometimes for years, until they can't. And everything cracks all at once. Ask anyone who lived through 1990 in Indonesia. They'll tell you how fast that happens. And yet, despite all of that, we trust prices every single day. We let them guide our choices, shape our self-image, and define what's possible and what isn't. So, I want to go back to where we started. The price you thought of, the last one you saw today. I want you to look at it again, not the way you usually do, not as a snap judgment. Look at it as a sentence someone wrote for you to read. Don't ask, what is this? Ask, what is this trying to tell me? And maybe even more importantly, who does this price serve? Who benefits from me not asking this question? Because if prices really are the language of our world, and I believe they are, then the question I want to leave you with is this. Are we reading that language, or are we simply reacting to it? Thank you.